We're back for episode 2 of this summer series. I was thinking about you the whole time I was rewatching this because I know that you had mentioned that you haven't seen it a lot.
I definitely have never seen this movie before. I thought that I had, maybe just because I knew so much about it. But yeah, last night watching it was my first time.
Well, this came out 23 years ago in July.
2001, July 2001.
Yeah.
So I was like just about to go to college, which kind of makes sense as to why I guess I never saw this.
Yeah. Also, is this our first G-rated movie?
I think it is. Is this really G-rated? It's not PG?
I think it is G-rated. Because if you
Wow.
think about it, there's not really cursing. For an explicit podcast, we're not even PG, we're G. We are G-rated this episode. So if you have kids around, they're welcome to listen.
Well, I don't know if you should say that just yet, but
yeah. So maybe we'll tell you when to
TBD if we have to add the explicit handle.
We'll tell you when to put your AirPods in.
So July 2001. Did you see this in the movies that you remember?
Don't remember seeing this movie for the first time ever. I just remember seeing it. I just remember it's like one of those things where you wake up and it's just part of your life.
Okay.
I've seen it so many times, but I don't think I've watched it so much in my adult life. I think in recent years, it's been more the millennial nostalgia of seeing it incorporated into memes. And a couple years ago when our cousin Erica got married, we did probably one of the only TikToks I've ever made or will make in the future was the Paolo-esque makeover that we did during, getting ready for her wedding, which was very fun.
Yeah, I think that's why I feel like just all the stuff on the internet plus this movie, it's interesting because we talked about this in It Takes Two, how I kind of felt like I watched younger movies that were like younger than I was. But what I loved about this movie is Anne Hathaway. I'm like right in between Anne Hathaway and Mandy Moore. Like one was born in 1981 and one was born one's a year older than me and I think one's a year younger than me. So kind of seeing them in this high school age around when I was in high school, I can't say that there are very many movies that fit that bill that are as innocent, as G-rated as this movie is, and is a lot closer to my high school experience than some of the other teen movies that did have kids my age in it, but they were like a little more advanced than I was.
Yeah, and Mandy Moore, I feel like I really think of our family when we think of like A Walk to Remember, because I guess it was, I don't know why, we had the DVD, but that movie came out in January of 2002. So she had this, and then Shane West and her had their moment.
And the thing I remember more about that movie is the song.
Yeah.
Did one of you play it on the piano, or like did we have the sheet music for it?
We definitely had some sheet music.
Unfortunately,
I don't even remember.
Something sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very sad movie. It's also bizarre.
Not
movie.
A me movie. Yeah.
I think that we may have to do a review of it though, because it's a movie that just doesn't really make sense. Unfortunately, we did not have the sheet music for this soundtrack, which is fantastic. Miracles happen once in a while.
Is that considered to be like the theme from this movie?
When I think of the theme song from this movie, I think of that. But also there's, Mandy Moore, Lana, Anna, and Fontana. Is that their name? Or yeah, the three of them. They have their trio moment at the Baker Beach party. I don't think of that song, but I'm sure it's on the soundtrack.
When I first put the movie on and that song Supergirl came on, it was like, I know this song, so maybe I thought for a minute that I had seen the movie, but maybe I just knew that song from, it was that song on the radio?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it
Okay.
was definitely of that time. There's a lot of most songs just sounded like that. It had that
Yes.
sound.
Yeah.
You know that sound we're looking for? We found it.
Listen to this.
Yes. The fact that this came out in 2001 just says everything that you need to know about this movie, the time. I know we were giving praise to your own fashion that you have decided to show up for this episode, but so many great outfits. So excited to get
Yeah.
into it.
Yes. Great outfits.
Also outfits that are back in
Yep.
2024, specifically the skirts. I'm here for it. I'm ready to go back to 2001. I feel like it was a great time.
Well, the beginning of it was.
Yeah, that's true. Whoa. So I guess I know you don't really have a specific memory. So what I just want to hear your like initial reactions of watching this last night. Like what were
And
some just Michelle thoughts you were having?
one of my first Michelle thoughts was Julie Andrews was a lot younger than I think I had pictured her being in my
Mhm.
mind. I think I was, she is like a grandmother and a grandmother's age, but I think like in my head what I thought that that was at that time is like different than how I see it now. And I just, I'm just so grateful that she's still alive. She's still with us, and I think whatever age she is now is kind of how I thought she was like an elderly woman, and she's not. She's like a grandmother, a
And a great
regal,
grandmother at that.
a lovely grandmother.
Lovely.
I love Julie Andrews. I mean, Mary Poppins, Sound of Music, like on my Mount Rushmore of movies, favorite movies. She feels like this like movie fairy godmother, can do no wrong. She's not in very many movies. So I think I was just excited to like get some more content, more time with her.
Yeah, and I think just having her come back as in a Disney film because this was her
Hmm.
only other. I don't know if she's done Princess Diaries too, but after Mary Poppins, just
Hmm.
making her
Yeah.
come back. But I couldn't agree more. I mean, Julie Andrews and the Queen, both. I would love to have on speed dial to have a cup of tea with. I was having so many thoughts of like, there's so many aspects of this movie that I know Michelle appreciates, but I think that I also think of you as such like a classy lady that could have easily been a princess in a past life.
I felt like the parts that I more related to was being the like awkward high school girl. I mean, I didn't have really curly hair, but everything else is pretty much like
Oh,
kind of
see,
kind of kind of
I
spot
thought that
on.
was totally me. So,
Really? Okay.
yeah.
We are both kind of clumsy. Okay, another just initial thought was it being a San Francisco movie. And just San Francisco movies in general, I feel like all the ones I could think of were all good movies and kind of maybe a little underrated.
I know we've only done one other San Francisco movie. Shout out Mrs. Doubtfire if you haven't watched that.
Yes,
Listen to that from our first season. But yeah, I think that San Francisco, I mean, in general, I love San Francisco
I
as a
don't. I
as a
don't
Cali
like
girl
it
myself.
to visit it, but I like it in movies.
I think you need to go back. You need to come with me. You need to have the Laura San Francisco experience and you might change your mind. But I agree for movies, I think because San Francisco is such a distinct city, it has
Hmm.
very as soon as you see it, you know where it is. So it almost plays its own character in movies that it's in. It adds so much to the film instead of being just in the background. It just brings a lot to this movie.
Every San Francisco movie I can think of like does something interesting with it.
What are some other
So,
San Francisco movies that you're thinking of?
okay, the ones I thought of were Zodiac, What's Up, Doc, Ant-Man, which is like
Wow.
really like when I say underrated, I know it's like lesser popular of the Marvel movies, but I thoroughly enjoy it because it's more of like a comedy. And
Mhm.
San Francisco, it works with the story very
Yeah.
well.
I'm
How about you? Any
surprised.
other that come to mind?
Not really. I think what was the first one that you said?
Zodiac,
Zodiac.
one
Is
of Jimmy's favorite movies.
isn't Vertigo also in San Francisco?
Yes, good
Yeah,
call. That should have
that's a
been
good one.
first.
That's a good one because the colors of San Francisco really come alive. Mrs. Doubtfire, obviously, but not too many others come to mind. Yeah, we want to hear from listeners. What are some
Yeah,
of
what are we
your
missing? We're definitely
favorite
missing
San
some.
Francisco movies? We might have to do a San Francisco season. We actually did have a San Francisco shout out in this is a throwback to our first holiday series, but Mrs. Hess did leave her bread in San Francisco that she was very upset about. Her San Francisco sourdough.
I would be upset
Wow.
too.
Wow.
I
We're
probably
really
said that in the
plugging
episode.
some niche episodes in Princess Diaries. This has taken a turn. As someone who's apparently watching this for the first time, give me your short list or long list of things that you loved.
I kind of already talked about this, but I feel like this is kind of a good opening discussion. Is just the relatability of being like a awkward high school student, which I said was like me, and you're saying it's you. I think despite what we see in movies, that's like I think that more people can relate to that than being like the cool high school student. So yeah, I kind of liked seeing this representation of a more innocent look at like it's not that she didn't like want to go to parties or she didn't have crushes on boys, but she just kind of didn't know what to do with herself. And this is kind of I gave her own bullet point, but I felt like Lily was an also like a really excellent best friend character. I mean, it's hard to say this with Anne Hathaway and Julie Andrews being the stars of this movie, but I kind of felt like Lily, in a way, like stole the movie in the scenes that she was in. She was just, it was a really strong character, and I thought that she was a really strong actor portraying her. I mean, everything from the gym class and like having a crush on the boy that was out of her league, but not. Yeah, I don't know. It all just felt really relatable that she was so quirky.
Yeah. First of all, they had a lot of gym scenes, a lot of
They really
athletic
hammered that home.
moments.
Yeah.
And as someone who played sports, I was usually fine in gym, but I never loved gym. And my heart just really goes out to you and anyone listening to this podcast who didn't feel like they were excelling in gym class. It's kind of a cruel course to be forced into taking. If you had to pick, I guess, between softball, soccer, I can't remember what other sports, cheerleading, which one would you pick?
Definitely not softball. Probably, well, I don't know, soccer. I mean, I probably end up on the bench for either of those anyway. So probably one of those. I couldn't deal with this with a cheerleader. This may be a weird thing to say, but I don't think I'm like a good team player because I tend to just kind of, if there's like a group, I'll just kind of. She had a great line where she says, "My expectation in life is to be invisible and I'm good at it." I was like, I relate so much to that, not just as like a kid, but I think as an adult a little bit too. So yeah, I'm thinking about sports and PE. I think it's more about that than like not wanting to like do something active.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I was watching this and I was like thinking, not in a mean way, but I was like, wow, this was probably Michelle in gym class. Like, she literally hated it and was, I think I loved the character of Mia though, because she was quiet in the sense that she felt like she couldn't stick up for herself the first half of the movie until she stood her ground and coned Lana, which was just an amazing scene. But she was very like outspoken about, listen, I am a yoga, rock climbing girl. I'm not into coordinated sports. And you may be surprised to know, even though I played soccer, I definitely don't consider myself a coordinated person in a lot of aspects. I feel like Dom always says that I'm great at most sports, but I've never really felt that way. It's hard. It's
You're
not
definitely good at, if you don't feel like you're good at it, you're good at making it look like you can do it.
That's very nice of you.
I think you have a can-do attitude.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Do you have any like nightmare gym stories specifically from high school?
I don't. I mean, I think I've brought, I don't know why, but we must have talked about this on some other episode because I remember talking about this before, that it's funny that my sister-in-law, Carrie, is a PE teacher. So, it's kind of interesting to be able to hear and see things from her side of it. I almost wish there were like two tracks to PE. Like you could either be like, I want to do the team sports, I want to be competitive, I want to peg people with dodgeballs, and then a track for like an individual route where you could like do yoga and weight training and run and like be active. And I hate how much the like school gym experience made me feel like I like was not an athletic person, when today I consider myself to be very athletic, but it's just I had to kind of like find my own
Yeah.
things that I enjoy doing.
I think one of the things that I really was just angry about was the fact that the physical fitness test existed. I mean, it was like absolute humiliation trying to do. I've never been a flexible person, and trying to do that reach test or you had to do like one pull up. Everyone
It
would be
was like
watching you.
Lord of the Flies stuff.
It was really not great. So I don't know. Maybe gym has evolved, but I think with all the different types of exercise that exist for adults now, I'm hoping they've moved more into a yoga
Like wellness.
wellness approach instead of that freaking metal box that you had to
Oh my god, that the sit and reach box, is that what you're talking about?
and the mile you had to sprint and then put back on your normal clothes and go to math. The worst. I even though I could run, I always felt like I needed to throw up after doing that freaking mile.
And like for the people who had gym like first period,
Oof.
it's like 7:12 a.m. and you
Yeah.
have to just go out on the track.
And this was not California high school
No.
movie locker room. We didn't have showers. You were just raw dog and putting back on your clothes that you worked so hard to look nice for before 7:30.
If we had to shower though, that would have been like a different level of trauma too. I would not have wanted to do that.
I know. Even when I remember I was working at this job and they had a gym at the office, which is great because I used to go, but it's such a process showering in a locker. There's so many, you have to like have your socks and your underwear and you have to change and then you have to blow dry your hair. And it's like, I'm not doing this again. I need to be in my space, in my shower, getting myself ready. I don't have time and then you need a laundry bag to put your items in. So I'm not a locker room girl myself.
Yeah, I mean, even like going to a spa, like in some of the showers, there's like kind of space, but sometimes there's not, and then your stuff will get wet.
I know.
I just like, I need someone to just give me instructions, like full detailed instructions to do something like that.
Yes, I know. So I don't know. I could see this high school that Mia was going to probably had showers, and it was probably not great. To your point, it felt like very realistic and relatable, but she definitely comes off as someone who is outspoken kind of about, like, even though she says she doesn't like public speaking and all this stuff, like she does very much like stand in her truth of, I'm awkward and I feel uncomfortable about this, which I really respected.
Definitely princess material.
Yeah, definitely. I also loved her transformation of character beyond, what they did in all early 2000 movies. They straightened someone's hair and all of a sudden they're, beautiful. Even though I was like, she has some awesome hair. Like, I don't know
She
why
does.
they're changing that up. Even when she is going into school kind of towards the end of the movie and she leans down and she's talking to the two little girls and signing their books. I was like, oh, she really is a princess. She's so kind. She's one of the people. I don't know if you felt the same way, but I think besides her character, I absolutely just fell in love with Anne Hathaway. Like watching this movie over again, I have always been that person, and I hate admitting this, but I would always say, I don't know why Anne Hathaway just bothers me. And I would never have an explanation. I don't know if it was because of her disposition in a lot of movies where she kind of came off as difficult after watching this. I know she was only 18 when she filmed this, but I have such a newfound respect for her. Also, great timing because her movie on Amazon Prime has gotten so much traction. The Idea of You. I feel like I love Anne Hathaway.
All right. I
You
feel
disagree.
like no, it's not that I'm not a fan. I mean, I think that she's beautiful and I think that she's a great actress, but I don't know, there's something that like I don't feel the like whenever people like are like, isn't she incredible? I'm like, she's great, but I think I'm missing the like the wow factor. And it must
Mm-hmm.
just be like a preference thing. I don't know.
I want to challenge you on that because think of it outside of terms of like her in real life, because no one really knows how people are in real life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The media and word of mouth, people have portrayed her as this annoying woman for some reason.
Oh.
I actually don't hear many people say I love Anne Hathaway. So I feel like I've had this like newfound respect for her, and maybe it's just about a part of getting older and wanting to like protect women, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of actors get this stamp of this is who they are. This is definitely who they are. I've heard this. Someone told me this about this person without really knowing who they are. So I feel like I'm more so trying to look at it from a lens of I just respect her in the movies that she's been in and more of the interviews I've watched with her as of recent. And I do think there's this aspect of the Mia Thermopolis who kind of like stands in her truth and she's like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And whether or not you jive with that or not, people have created preconceived notions about her.
I don't think I've ever heard anything bad about her. I
Mm-hmm.
think this is what I'm going by. There are actors and actresses or actors that when a movie comes out that they're in, I'm like, I want to see this because this person is in it and I really enjoy their presence on the screen. And she's just, it's not that I don't think that she's been great in all the things I've seen her in. It's just, she's just not, I would never go see a movie just because she was in it. They can't all be favorites.
Yes. But I do remember being younger and not, I found aspects of her annoying, but watching it this time, I was like, oh, this is so enjoyable. I just love her character and so many, her physical comedy in this and her very human reactions to a lot of things about being a teenager and having this mounting pressure on her and this crazy news that she gets hit with. So
Also important for us to say here, I think this is her first movie.
yeah, I think so.
So bravo. I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's a reason that she became a star after
Yeah.
this. When you think of like three actresses, if they're in the movie, you're like, I want to see it because they're in it.
Mm. Rachel McAdams, Margot Robbie. I don't know who my third would be, but definitely Rachel McAdams is probably at the top. And it's unfortunate because I can confidently say there's a lot of movies that I think are absolute trash that Rachel McAdams are in, but she's good in everything she's in. She just has a
That's a
very
good pick.
amazing disposition. She has a small part in this, and this is more so from binging Grey's Anatomy, but I love Sandra Oh. She's so wonderful in
Amazing.
this movie, even though she only has a couple lines, but
I say she
she's
definitely
iconic.
did the most with the least in this
I
movie.
know. I know.
Yeah.
I wish that she was like the whole movie. I just want a Sandra Oh, Julie Andrews like revival, just with the two of them like running a high school. Be
I
amazing.
would definitely sign up to watch that.
Yeah, yeah. What about you?
Kate Blanchett can
Yeah.
do no wrong. And I feel like she more falls in that category of every movie that she's in is good because she's in it kind of thing. Emma Stone, I love.
Yes. Yep.
I feel like she has like a great presence. Rachel McAdams was a good pick. That wasn't like who I initially thought of, but I'd say Emily Blunt is probably another.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of movies though that Emily Blunt has been in the last couple of years that I've like I've been like, oh my gosh, I want to see her in it, but it's always a movie that I don't want to see.
Mhm.
Like I just don't. I think it's just the categories that I'm never
Yeah, yeah.
interested.
I never saw like
Yeah.
what's the one that she did with John Krasinski? Is it the
A
Dark?
Quiet Place.
I'm
Yeah,
like
well,
the
those
Dark
are
Place or
actually that
something.
movie is that movie is amazing. See, that's more my speed. I don't really like the Fall Guy that just came out or
See,
the
I really want to see that because she's in
yeah.
it.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Well, we'll have to report back on that. I want to talk a little bit about the supporting characters in this
Yes,
movie. I think that that's
please.
definitely our I think we just need a section of every podcast episode that we do from now on. Instead of just incorporating into the things we like, it's like, let's just talk about the supporting characters. All star lineup, starting with me as mom, Helen. I mean, I want her to be my mom. Love you, mom. But like, if I had to pick a second mom, it would be Helen Thermopolis. Joe,
Joseph.
obsessed. I mean, butlers, head of security. We have an all-star lineup in these episodes that we have been recording. Sandra Oh, even the villains like Mandy Moore, fantastic villain in this movie. Lily, like you said, even though that she's a little bit more of a main. Michael, great, even though he's
Love
very
Mike.
cringe, but
Love how cringy he
so
is. Yeah.
perfect. Um, and in a way, like they didn't have to include any of those people because the two of them are such a strong presence in this movie and you really only need them to carry it. But I felt like so much of this movie and the parts that I love are the scenes that involve the supporting characters.
Even like the man who fixed her car was like so nice.
I
And
know.
like he was just such like a warm presence.
Oh, Doc.
Yes, Doc. Doc was
Yes.
great. We
I
needed
love
more of
Doc.
him
I
as
know. We
well.
needed more of Doc. We needed more of the tortured poet,
Mr. Robitussin.
Mr. Robitussin. Love
I think
him.
he was on my like list of or supporting characters. I think it's like him and then Helga and who are Paulo's like the two women who are his assistants.
Yes. Yeah. Helga and I forget the other one. And love Charlotte. Charlotte's a classy lady.
Charlotte's
She's great.
carrying the whole
I know.
operation.
And it's interesting to hear you say that because I was watching it for the first time, but I feel like when I look back on all these memes and like the millennial fabric of growing up with this movie, all those supporting characters are always like part of those moments that make this movie so special. So it shows that it really holds up. What did you think of just some of the settings, like the Queen's house that she was staying in San Francisco, and more importantly, her apartment, her and her mom's apartment was amazing.
Yeah, I will put the Queen's residence. It was kind of a, what do they call it? The like an embassy or
The
something like that.
Genovian embassy.
Genovian embassy. I'll put them more under things that I did not love as much from a interior design perspective. But yeah, Mia and her mom's, firehouse house was incredible. It's funny that you said I want her mom to be my mom, and I wrote down like I want to be the mom. Because I thought, I'm like, oh my God, this woman is so cool. Like, she's painting and they're painting in the house. Like, when they had the scene where they were throwing, I don't know, objects and
Yeah, it was like
popping.
darts and paint. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, she's like, my
incredible.
parents did this at Woodstock. I'm like, of course, your
So
parents went
fun.
to Woodstock. I also got a very similar dynamic. And I don't think that she was as young, but I think being like a single mom and raising her daughter in a city and being an artist, she definitely has more of that freeness in her, which
Hmm.
is so refreshing from so many other movies during this time period where it's like the mom who's like a martyr and, they just make her maybe out to be the bad guy. But I got a very similar dynamic as Lorelai and Rory
Hmm.
in Gilmore
Yeah.
Girls, which I'm sure that you can appreciate. But I just thought that she was a very original character.
Yeah, I really liked her as a character. I think you're right. I think that they could have written it for her to be like the bad guy and that she was trying to like kind of like escape being with her mom, and they used that as like a driving force. But yeah, I like that it seemed like they had a really like a healthy relationship where she was her mom, but also like, respected her as a person and she was supportive of her. That apartment, house, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah,
So cool. That red stove was probably my favorite thing in it.
so great. She has a tower. It's one of my favorite.
Yeah,
It's
I
so
have that
great.
as one of my
Yeah,
favorite lines.
yeah.
And like, yeah, her Mia's kind of like upstairs tower area. It kind of reminded me or made me think of Toy Story, like the way that there were like aspects of Andy's room that made me feel like it was similar to Mia's room. And I like that she has her, like her cat and her laptop, and just that she created this kind of just like very cozy. I don't know. I feel like if I had been given like all the like time, resources, and money to like make myself like a little room nook hideaway when I was in high school, like it would have looked just like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it was great because it was so imperfect. And
Hmm.
I think whomever was the set design lead just did a really good job of creating that environment of equal parts warmth and messiness and playing that as its own character. And having, like you said, there's a reason I think that we don't love the Genovian consulate because it's very stuffy. It's also not the queen's home, so
Hmm.
it's a temporary place for diplomats to gather and it has to be very proper and it's the place where Mia has to like become something that she's not. So it's very grounding to like have both of these places and then using the school as like the middle part playground where she has to go and like you know and put up with all of the bullshit of being in high school.
Yeah, I mean, I also, in talking about some of the other settings, got Gilmore Girls vibes from, from her school, from her uniform, from all the kids in high school. Like it felt very much like Rory, being at Chilton. I was like half expecting, I'm like, is Chad Michael Murray in this? Like I was kind of expecting him to be one of the guys, but
Yeah.
he'll be joining us for a future Film to Table
Yes.
movie in the series.
Sure will.
Um,
Apparently we love blonde not very exciting males this season. So
yes. Oh wait,
really,
yeah, yeah. Actually,
yeah,
he's going to appear twice. I
yeah,
forgot. We
yeah,
have two
yeah.
releases with him.
Two releases. Speaking of, do we want to talk a little bit about the love interest in this
Yes,
movie?
please.
Josh is like, he's like a wet blanket, but he's so perfect for this role. Like, just the whole fact. I love the way that Helen describes him as Backstreet Boy wannabe, or she's something along those lines. And she's like, he's not, he's a sailor. Like, he has a very respectable background. But yeah,
Sailor,
he's
that's
just
so
such an
generous.
absolute idiot. And that was a very realistic character inclusion because I'm sure everyone can relate to kind of having that hot guy that you would be pining over, but they were dumb as bricks and had no personality and not being able to see through the hair. I guess I was so young when this movie came out, and I do remember being like, oh, he's so cute, but he's like not even attractive.
I don't know exactly what it is that I know him from, but like maybe just
Disney Channel original
Disney
movies.
Channel. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of an exact one, but he was definitely in the Disney family. But I will say he played this role very well.
He did. I think
Yeah.
as soon as I saw him, I was like, I hate that at that age, like, middle school
Mm-hmm.
and high school, that I felt like he was kind of like the prototype of the love interest or like the cute
Yeah.
guy in the movie. And not, I mean, I can't think of anyone in real life that like I know that like looked like that look. It was more of a California thing,
Mm-hmm.
but it annoys me that we were all kind of like primed to like guys that look exactly like that. So it was interesting to watch this for the first time, like as an adult, and seeing the two of them and immediately being able to go like, now, like had I had the sense then, would definitely find Michael much more appealing because I'd be looking at like the whole package. I mean, he's cute by himself, like without, but I loved how awkward he was. And I don't know if this was like the actor or if it was the direction that was given, but did you notice that like almost to like a distracting point, he couldn't make eye contact with her?
Yeah, I think it was his entire disposition though, because he's very quirky like her, just in the way that he responds to things, his sense of humor. But I don't know. Yeah, I feel like he couldn't look her in the eye, but he definitely was always staring at her
Hmm.
from afar.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think watching it as an adult, I do remember feeling like, oh my God, Michael is not even cute. Why? Like, would she be into him? He's like kind of nerdy, like wanting her to be with Josh because I was like younger and primed. And now I'm like, oh my God, Michael is so cute. He's in a band, he fixes cars. He's so sweet. He goes, out of his way to like get her baby. Oh my God. I love him. I would date him.
He's great. The only
Yeah.
thing my only nitpick with Michael is that, the hair is not.
But of the time, that
Of
was
the
some good
time
hair.
it was what people were
Yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
I hated it even then. I
Yeah.
hated it.
He's also a Schwartzman, like one of the Schwartzman brothers, which
I
is really
saw that.
cool. Yeah.
Oh, don't think that I didn't look him up. He's aged. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like he does more behind the camera stuff now,
Yeah.
but very
Yeah.
cute. Looks a little
He's
like
a
Ashton Kutcher.
creative, Michelle. Maybe he's sorry, Jimmy, if you're listening to this, but
I'm sure Jimmy is going to be listening to the Princess Diaries
oh yeah, of
episode.
course. And I think that the most special love interest of all is Joseph and the Queen. I'm obsessed with them.
I think I'm, again, really glad that I got to watch this for the first time as an adult, because I think if I was watching it as a young person, I would be so confused as to like why that was happening. And now I want to write like a whole fanfic love story between the two of them. I love, this kind of like dynamic of him being like around all the time, but kind of working for her. Like we just got like the very like surface of this story. I think there's a lot more to be revealed. Like, have they known each other like for their whole life? How long has this been going on?
Mm. When she retires as queen, I like to believe that they like run away together to like Italy. And they live in a little cottage somewhere, and they just have their morning tea and like watch the fog roll in over the mountains. And he drives taxis because he loves driving around. That's the story that I've told
Driving
myself.
is one
Yeah.
of his other loves.
Yeah.
Question for you. There is the scene where we first kind of get a hint of this, where they're dancing and he says something to her about like wearing black,
I think that
right?
it was supposed to be a nod of like your husband passed away and you've been like mourning him for too long. But
Okay, so my
yeah,
question was, did she start wearing color right after that scene?
I wasn't paying attention. I think that she might have just been wearing black in that scene because
Just
I
in that
think when
scene.
we
Okay.
meet her, she's in her normal tea outfit.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Julie Andrews, she is so beautiful. She looks absolutely fantastic in this movie. I need her skincare routine.
Yes.
I need her stylist. I always think of like being a grandmother someday and wanting a short haircut. And I'm like, I'll never be able to pull that off. But she has always pulled off. I mean, even when she was younger in The Sound of Music.
Maybe this has to be Julie Andrews like bringing this to the role, because I feel like everything that I've seen her in, she's like this in some way, where she just has this kind of like, she's able to be lovely and also strong at the same time.
Yes.
And I feel like that's really hard to pull off. But I think that's one of the reasons that like I just like look up to her so much.
Oh my gosh. I mean, on a personal note, taking movies aside, I feel like I'm constantly saying this in my life. I really struggle to be, to find a way to be kind, but also strong. Because
Hmm.
I always, for all of our ladies listening to this episode, I'm sure
Which is
this is
probably mostly ladies.
mostly ladies, but I think that it's really difficult. And also, there's not too many women in movies, especially movies that we grew up with, that portray women in that way. It's very
Hmm.
like they play this one role, they need to be saved by men. And while there are love interests in this movie, I don't think that that's what this movie is about. And as like a G-rated film and for really like young audiences watching this, I think that both of them are really good role models. Because it's really hard to like merge being like true to yourself and being kind and compassionate, but also like standing in your truth and making decisions based on what is right for you without being necessarily hurtful.
Well said. Anything else on your list of favorite things?
I love Julie Andrews' physical acting in this movie. There's a lot of different moments that I was just like giggling based on her properness, but not in a way that's like, oh, she's being proper and annoying.
Yeah, sure. My father was the Prince of Genovia.
Uh-huh, you're joking. Why would I joke about something like that?
There's one in particular that I'm thinking of is when she shows up to the school and the press first finds out about Mia, and she just takes the microphone of someone in the press and she puts it in his like shirt pocket. And when she's like goes over to their house the first time where she's not as comfortable, or to the fire loft, and she's just kind of like wiping down the glassware. She also has this like really like disgusted. She clearly just takes her tea very seriously because she's so like disgusted when she has the tea that Sandra Oh gives her in the office. You know, it's like a Disney movie. Like she really committed to this role and she really went above and beyond. And she also just had a beautiful transformation. Like Mia kind of grew into a woman leading up to her 16th birthday, and she found a way to be like more childlike and like meet someone in the middle and learn how to be like human again, which inherently you lose when you're in roles of power. I loved them together as scene partners. It was really fun to watch. Julie Andrews, 10 out of 10.
All right, how about things that we did not like?
Just some things that didn't make sense to me. Like, I know that the softball class, as they said, she was like, it's just gym. It's not that big of a deal. But everyone's making a big deal about this. Like, why is Mr. O'Connell at the gym softball game? Why is the guy like yelling at Josh to get up like they're losing a a championship? Why are there cheerleaders at, this gym softball game? Just
These are
didn't,
great questions.
this just really didn't make much sense. I had a different opinion, but also I'm with you. I think in my mind, I'm like, it's just because she's difficult, but it was more so I would get annoyed with Lily at points because I'm like, she's being such a little bitch. Like, she's being so mean. But I feel like that would be so realistic of having a best friend and having normal fights with them about someone being more bossy and one person being more passive. So I think that her role shouldn't have changed, but as like, if that was in real life, I would be getting so annoyed with her character. And I remember feeling that way younger too, which again makes sense of what I was saying as being like a passive and kind of person that I think gets stepped on a lot and needing to maybe channel my inner Lily a little bit more.
Yeah, she's pretty intense, but I think that's why I love her as a character.
Yes.
But yeah.
Maybe not someone you truly do want as your friend though.
Yeah. So Mr. O'Connell, is that who her teacher who the mom like kind of dates? I didn't initially have this on my list, but now that you brought him up, like I think, all right, the mom dated like a prince and now she's dating Mr. O'Connell. I feel like she can do better than him. I think she's...
I don't know. I feel like Mr. O'Connell is sweet, but I think that he didn't stand up for Mia when she was wearing a hat because she was getting bullied. So
yeah, but maybe it was kind of a like he didn't want to let on that
like favoritism. This is true. No, I thought that Mr. O'Connell was a great guy. I just don't know why he's at the gym softball game. We need answers. If anyone has any answers or theories about why he was there, maybe he was like trying to look out for Mia. So he has some notes when he's going on a date with Helen.
I'm not completely all in on him.
Other things that I had issues with, not because they're in the movie, but just personal preferences. I feel like I've thought of a couple different names for this section, but I'm landing on that we should rename this section personal preferences.
Well, we're just trying to be nice
instead of things we don't like. But personal preferences, rock climbing, right out for me. Absolutely terrified of heights. Don't love the chalk situation. Don't love the idea of being attached to a rope. Having PTSD thinking about the fact that we had one. Shout out again to the Palisades Mall. We had one in the food court that I never braved going on. But I just think that rock climbing, I don't think it's needed. I think there's other ways to be working out in a non-coordinated way.
I think that if you asked me in high school, would you rather play in a gym softball game or go rock climbing? I would go rock climbing. Like it would not even be like a contest.
I'm floored right now.
And I am very afraid of heights, but just the idea that I can like not have to be part of the situation where like everyone is really into this thing that I'm not into and there's all this pressure and like I'm going to be terrible. I'd rather just kind of like, at least with the rock climbing, like if you go up like a couple, you don't have to go up that high and like no one, it's just you. Like, and I'm fine with like sucking at it. I don't care.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, Michelle would go up like 4 steps and call it a day.
But would I go rock climbing in the food court? I don't know. Because then you kind of have an audience.
After going to Little Tokyo, I don't think so. Definitely not an after meal situation that I want to do it. Well, that I want to do. How do we always end up back at the Palisades Mall?
Well, I mean, I feel like this era, like 2001, was like peak.
Yeah.
For both of us.
Yeah. Rock climbing is a no for me. Yeah. Other than that, I think that some of the scenes, which thinking about what I was interested in when I was a kid versus now, some of like the diplomatic scenes can be a little bit snoozy to me, but also there's so much comedy in some of those moments. But I think I wanted to be more in like the car with Joe or be in her convertible. I wanted to be more in like the moving moments. I wanted to be in her mom's apartment and spend less time in the palace or the consulate.
I mean, I feel like they tried to kind of make those characters be, kind of like cartoons and like fun, and some of them were, but like for the most part, I agree with you. Even like as adults, I found that part kind of a little boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have it under things I hated, but
yeah,
now that you're saying it, it
Yeah.
was kind of not that interesting.
Although I love the string cheese statue. It just gets me every time. So great.
Well, it kind of reminded me of the statue scene in Goonies.
Yes. So accurate. Oh
They
my
were
gosh.
a little bit more G about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely a little bit more G. What about you?
I know we already talked about how much we love Joe, but I have to tell you that I spent a good part of this movie being very anxious that Joe and or Charlotte were gonna like screw everyone over.
Mm.
And I don't know why I put that on Charlotte, but I think for Joe, that actor is also in, I'm sure no one else has seen this, but it's kind of a favorite in my house. He's in Beverly Hills Cop 3, and his character is this character who like you like the whole movie, and then at the end you like find out that he's like a bad guy. So I think I have it in my head. And there were a couple moments that they almost kind of hinted at it, like the Mr. Robitussin is talking about something that he's writing. He almost like accuses him of maybe something nefarious happening. And I was like, yes, oh no, it's happening, it's happening. And I think even the scene where he's dancing with Queen Clarice, our two Clarices back to back, spelled differently, I think. When he went to dance with her, I'm like, oh my God, he's using her. Like he's trying to get the crown. I don't know what he was trying to get, but I kind of like spent the whole movie not trusting him. So I was really happy at the end when everything was okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so surprised you thought that. Yeah, he's the best. He saves the day. He knows that she's on the run. He always drops her off, not at the front of school, so she doesn't get bullied. He's the MVP of this movie.
So I think next time I watch this, I'll be a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah.
I can trust him. All right, my other two minor but really hated them things. One, her calling the car baby.
Yeah.
I kind of understood how they did it to set up like that first kind of introduction of it, where we're kind of like, oh, she has a baby. Or like, what is she talking about? But then after that, I was like, it just got annoying and felt unnecessary. And it kept asking, like, what is this doing for the movie? And what is this doing for us?
Yeah, I think that they were just trying to think of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. But yeah, I agree. It actually made me feel really uncomfortable. But I will say, maybe it was because it was baby blue, like my sweater.
Wasn't it
the
kind
color.
of green?
Oh, maybe you're right. I thought it was like a blue, like a light blue color. We'll need to confirm. What are your feelings on convertibles, though? I know you're not. I feel like you're not a fan because of the hair situation.
Yeah. Not a fan. My last memory of I feel like being in a convertible, I feel like maybe Mike and Lisa had gotten one when we were out in Arizona, and I remember like just me driving to dinner, and by the time we get there being so annoyed that like just my hair was a complete mess, and I couldn't hear anyone talking, like because the wind is blowing so much.
Yeah.
I think unless you're going on like slow, I'll say this. Convertibles on like side streets, yes. Convertibles on the highway, absolutely not. Nightmare.
Fair.
But it was a cool car.
Yeah.
I liked that it was an old car, and I liked that she was into like having her own old car. I was surprised that it was Joe that picked her up at the end and it wasn't Michael, since Michael like I thought Michael was going to show up and like be like, I can fix the car in the rain, and
Yeah.
then he would
But isn't
drive her
that
there.
nice? It was like
But
something
I
a little
liked
different.
it. Was I liked
Yeah.
that? I like what they did with that.
Yeah.
And the other little like phrase I didn't like, the whole like the toe pop thing. I mean, it should be something I like because I love old movies and like I love the action itself of kind of like, you know, lifting your foot when you're kissing someone I think is like cute, but like the fact that she made it like a whole thing annoyed me.
I think you didn't like the cut to the fantasy of her foot popping versus the actual concept of the foot popping. Like when they show the gum on the bottom of the shoe.
Yeah, I think I just hated that she kept bringing it up and that it like needed like if that's going to happen, it needs to just happen naturally and like we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then talking about it kind of like kills the like what makes it cool.
Okay. This is fair. I did think of the other thing that I didn't love, which is a good segue into our next sections. The M&Ms on the pizza. I have no issues. I actually really appreciated it this time around because I realized how perfect sorry was written. And as someone who is, I think I have decent handwriting, but when it comes to probably placement of using other foods to write things, I'm not the best at it. And it was so meticulously written. But the idea of M&Ms on pizza just really made me nauseous. And I was like, that pizza looks so good. And they ruined the pizza with the sorry. Like, why wouldn't they do it in pepperoni, like half moons or something? Why wouldn't you cut the pepperonis in half and write sorry that way?
She was trying to be too cute once again.
Yeah. It felt very like...
These are now 3 strikes against trying to be too...
She was being too cute. She's a 15-year-old though.
Yeah, we'll cut her some slack.
But I do feel like the M&Ms on the pizza are very like nostalgic, like throwback vibe. If you were to see a picture of this movie and seeing that, you can identify what it wouldn't be as standout if it was pieces of pepperoni or mushrooms or things like that.
Yeah, I don't. I was a little confused / grossed out by. We're officially moving into our food segment.
Okay, it's happening.
Things that we wanted to eat and did not want to eat. The piano M&Ms.
I hated the piano M&Ms. The
I was
idea
kind of
like a mechanic's hands on a keyboard and then eating M&Ms, right out.
Exactly.
Love M&Ms. I think that's why I'm so upset, is because it's not like a good M&M experience.
Well, first I was wondering if they were supposed to be like a training device. Was he trying to like play in a way that would make them not slide off? Or were they a reward for something?
No, I think that he just liked to eat M&Ms while he was playing.
So keep a bag on the top. Put them in a bowl.
Yeah, but it's easier access because you're just really grossed out.
Would you rather eat M&Ms off of Michael's keyboard or off of the pizza? You have to eat it with the pizza, and also keep in mind that, like, I don't know what pizza place they ordered this from, but it was a place that like had M&Ms, so I don't know the reputability of the pizza place.
Maybe she dropped off the M&Ms though.
Oh, she supplied them? Okay, that's possible.
I don't know how she had enough time though. She was doing yoga like an hour before she had to be at this ball. I don't know what was going on. So we both agree we didn't want M&Ms on pizza from watching this movie. I had a corn dog experience this weekend, actually, which I was not thinking about before I watched this movie. I probably haven't had a corn dog in, I don't remember. I feel like there's only like a handful of times in my life that I've probably had a corn dog. We went on a boat this weekend to Channel Islands, and we hadn't really eaten all day. First of all, you would have absolutely died on this trip because everyone on the boat was seasick. Like, not physically sick, but like I was like, I'm gonna die. I'm actually gonna die on this boat. This is where my life ends. That's how choppy it was. You couldn't open your eyes or else it would not end well. And once the water did get calm, like they just had, chips and things and stuff in their galley. But they did have a frozen corn dog. So Dom had the corn dog, and I was like, I haven't had a corn dog in so long, and I'm finally feeling better after the seasickness. And I had a bite, and I have to say it was not great. But corn dogs are great. They're pretty yummy. Like if you get like a quality corn dog, it made me be like, I understand why the queen was into the corn dog.
It seems like an efficient way to like eat a hot dog,
Yeah.
like on the go.
Yeah.
And I loved when Julie Andrews like had a bite of it. It very much reminded me of like Emily Gilmore in Gilmore Girls. Like there's an episode where like she has frozen pizza for the first time and she's like, oh, like I'll try some. And she's very like delighted by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it felt like I think I love any scene where there's like, like a fancy person trying a non-fancy thing and then being into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was a really cute moment. But we do have a really fun dinner party scene as part of this movie. I feel like it's probably one of our first that we've really
like a
true dinner party. I have to say, like, none of the food really made me excited because I thought they were eating like pea soup. But the ice cream reminded me of like green tea ice cream. But I assume it was like pear ice cream because they were big on pears in this movie.
I thought it was maybe like a mint, like a palate, because they said it was like a palate cleanser. But you're right. I mean, they tried to really incorporate pears into like everywhere they could.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I agree, especially like the main course, which looked like some kind of like chicken or maybe it was like a hen or something.
Yeah.
It was like looked awful.
But I will say, I feel like the little palate cleanser, I've definitely been more inclined recently when I go out for dinner. Sometimes when I'm ordering dessert, like to, they usually have an ice cream or gelato on the menu. It's nice to just get like a little, instead of doing like a full dessert, just like a scoop of whatever ice cream that they have on the menu.
I was going to ask, because it seems at this meal, they kind of do the like pear and cheese avenue for desserts.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that like I wish I could be like that person who would be into that like as a dessert, but I don't know. It
yeah. What are your feelings on pears?
I'm like pear neutral. I think every once in a while I like crave a pear and I get them, but then I forget about them.
Do you remember growing up? I think that we just didn't maybe have access to good pears because
we're like always bruised.
They were either too soft or they were rock hard. Like I never remember they were well, Asian pears are delicious. Those are more of like an apple. They have like a crunch to them. I feel like they have more water. I feel like especially I've been really into putting like sea salt on my fruits because Dom got me onto it that it really like brings out the flavors. I feel like that would be a good like crunchy treat. But like a green pear, I just always felt like they were either like they were turning basically into soup. That's how soft they were. Or they were like, I will break my teeth if I bite into this. So it was hard to like find that balance. But I thought it was funny like that they were known for pears. That was such a specific thing.
That was a phrase that they kept bringing up, Genovian pears. And I'm like, I like that. Like that being their thing.
I will say pears were big in our household because our mom like went to this doctor once that was telling her that pears are so good for you. You know, when there's just like fads in the 2000s. So there was just this period where they were like, you need to eat more pears. So we always had like a bowl of pears in our kitchen. This might have been more so when you were in college. So I don't know if you were.
Oh no. I feel like this is like a famous story in our family where
it was
our
like
dad went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And he just like looked at his hand. This was obviously like a natural doctor.
Yeah.
And he just looked at Dad's hands and said, like, eat more pears. And the
Yeah.
nurse was just like,
Yep, that checks out. Yeah.
and Mom and Dad were like, great, let's
I've
stop at the supermarket on the way home.
never seen Dad eat a pear in my life. So I think the mom just was like, he's eating pears, I'm eating pears. So I guess Mom would be a great candidate as someone to live in the Genovian palace. Is there anything else that really wanted to eat after watching this?
Yes. I wanted to eat peanut butter and saltines.
Oh, I don't
forget
remember
which
that scene.
It's a subtle, because I can't remember when it happened, but I did write it down. Which I feel like I could always go for peanut butter and whatever.
A cracker. Yeah.
Yes. Champagne theory is still intact. We saw, I think, several champagne sightings in this movie. I wanted to talk a minute about the Lana getting coned. Immediately after it happens, like, I don't know if it was like one person said it, but it seemed like the whole high school just accepted this phrase like cones, that it was like a thing.
Mia, you're such a freak!
Yeah, I am. But you know what? Someday I just might grow out of that. But you will never stop being a jerk.
Vanna got coned. Vanna got coned. Vanna got coned.
I also love that Lily just chimes in on like the speaker.
Yes.
It gets so good. It also feels like one of those things. I mean, this isn't specific to high school, but you know, when people become known for certain experiences, that feels like one of those things where in 20 years where you're like talking to a friend and you're like, oh, you remember Lana? Like, oh yeah, I think she lives in, Idaho now, and she's like has a family, and you're like, remember when she got coned by Amelia Thermopolis? And it's just like such a specific memory. I'm like, I wonder if people remember me for anything like embarrassing like that. People live in our memories from high school just from these like individual moments that happen in time, and then they are just known for that.
Okay, this isn't what this person's known for, and I'm not going to say who it is, but in case my friends from high school are listening, they might remember who this was. And this happened when we were, I think, I want to say maybe like 4th or 5th grade. I don't know if they threw it, kicked it, or if someone else threw it, but somehow someone's sneaker. Right, this is like terrible podcast story. Crown is askew. Somehow their sneaker ended up in the rafters in the gym. Like got stuck up there.
Like
Just
so
one
specific.
of them. And then I have this memory of the custodian, and they came into the classroom and they had this kind of like pole, I guess, that they used maybe to retrieve it, and the shoe was just hanging off the end of it. And the custodian was like, had a great sense of humor, and they were almost like, PU, like, I don't want to be anywhere near this.
But I feel like that was the beauty of being, as much as we're like, oh, we hate like going to a small school and like go, but like the fact that the custodian was like, oh, I know whose shoe this is. Like, I know like where to deliver this. Like that's how small, especially if it was Miller, there were like 2 hallways in that entire school.
There must have been like instances where kids like threw up on themselves or whatever.
Yeah.
And didn't the nurse kind of have just like a bag of like spare clothes? Am I making that up?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh my God. I cannot imagine being a school nurse. It's probably not great times. When you feel like whenever you're telling these stories, like you feel the need to say that person's full name. Like it's not just like, and it makes it so much better because again, they just like live in your memory, like in this specific experience. Oh my God. Like I'll never forget. I mean, I don't think that this person is ever going to listen to this podcast, but I do remember this girl once like was in like the back stairwell of like our middle school, and she like had had a bag of peanuts, and actually this connects back because Mia does, and she just like dropped like this full bag of peanuts, and like everyone, it was like the talk of the school. They were like, did you hear what happened in the back staircase? Like, she dropped her nuts everywhere, like there were nuts. It's just so silly. Oh, but you always would need to say their full name. But it did remind me, because when Mia's like, please don't squish my soy nuts. It's like in her backpack. So did you have a favorite scene and favorite line? I know that this is new for you, but
okay, so I was able to narrow it down to one scene and just a couple quotes. I mean, you already said one of them, which was she has a tower.
yes.
But really, like, anything that Clarice is saying is funny. But my favorite scene was the scene where Clarice is teaching Mia how to wave, and they're pretending to be in a car. So it's kind of like Mia and Clarice are sitting in two seats. But the thing that I love most about it is that Joe is also part of this practice, and he's pretending he's sitting in the row in front of them, also just in a chair, like pretending to drive. And the whole thing is just so adorable. Joe makes the whole scene.
Is there a favorite line from that scene, or is it separate?
No, separate. So, all right. So I already said the tower. My other favorite one, at the beginning, right when Mia is about to throw up and run out of the room, someone says, cover the tuba.
Yeah.
And then I think the setup to this is that Clarice is saying that your life is about to change, and Mia says that her life already has changed because she had her braces taken off.
Yeah.
And then I like the line where she says, oh, this is bigger than orthodontia.
Yes. So good. I think that one of my favorite scenes is just when they go off and have their fun day together and they're eating corn dogs. I think that's just a very like sweet scene. And I like a lot of Helen quotes because they're very like corny and kind of cringy, but just very mom in a way. When she says like, I look like an asparagus, I'm not wearing this. And she's like, but you look like a very cute asparagus. And she also said, like, when she comes home from the bigger beach party and she's crying, she's like, my mom always said I couldn't cry, but you've been hurt, so you just cry. I thought that was so sweet. Yeah, but I love so many Clarice quotes. I actually thought of you when she was talking to this, but she was basically saying to Charlotte, like, I need, the Japanese consulate has all these fountains, like, and she says, just make me an Eden. Like, and this isn't really a quote, but I love the fact that Lily's show is called Shut Up and Listen.
I mean,
and
she
so Lily
became a podcaster, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I do think that the concept of like, that's such a high school feeling of saying like, I'm invisible, I feel invisible. And then, when she says to Michael that corny line, like, you saw me when I was invisible, which I thought was sweet.
That is cute.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a lot of build up to this setting up the garden. And then when she and Michael are out there, like there was a second where I was like, oh, this is going to be so good. And like the timing of everything,
Yeah.
like she kicks, even though I hate this whole thing, that she kicks on and then all the lights come on. But then when I see it, I'm kind of like, this feels kind of like.
I think that they needed to place them more in the garden because the lights were a little too far back. It must have been some production issue.
Yeah, I think it's just dated. I think it's just, I'm being too critical.
It's not your Eden. Let's get into our dinner party. I feel like there's some good settings to choose from this time, and to keep consistent with how we're approaching this season, we're going to give each other 3 people for our dinner parties or get-togethers. Maybe it's a summer barbecue. Maybe it's a fancy girl dinner we're doing. I'll go first. I'm absolutely giving you Mr. Robitussin. I'm going to give you Lana because we need some conflict. I'll give you Helen.
Well, since we have Helen, we have Mr. Robitussin. Let's keep this in the neighborhood and let's do this in Helen's kitchen.
Okay.
/ studio. Do we ever see her cooking anything?
I get the feeling that Helen's not a cooker.
Would it be a big cheat to say that I feel like there's a lot of really good Asian food in
Yeah.
in
Oh my God, San Francisco
San
is the
Francisco?
best Asian food.
I feel like she is going to order like the mains, and then she's going to ask Lana and Mr. Robitussin to like bring dessert and drinks.
Okay.
So I think she's going to order dumplings.
Okay.
I feel like that's all I want when I'm in San Francisco. Like a variety of dumplings. Like she's going to get them from like 3 different places. Like it's going to be a dumpling party.
Oh, this sounds amazing.
Also maybe a really good like seaweed salad.
That sounds great.
And what do you get with dumplings?
I mean, I think even like a side of really like tender broccoli would be nice. Like just or some green beans. Just like some veg. I could definitely see I could see Helen being a vegetarian. So she's getting like dumplings for the overall crew, but she may get some things for herself. I don't know why. I just get vegetarian vibes from her.
Yeah. Okay. So she's getting, I think she's getting vegetarian, she's getting pork, she's getting beef, and then some greens. I like the idea of the green beans. I think that she's going to be very like casual about it, but it's going to feel special because it's in her kitchen and they're like surrounded by her artwork, and she's kind of like letting the environment be the star over the food. I feel like this is not my best one. I think Mr. Robitussin, if he heard that Helen is ordering dumplings, would try to get some kind of like, would sake go with? No.
What I actually learned in Japan is sake is more of like an overall like alcohol. It's kind of confusing. I feel like he would bring.
Yeah,
I feel like he doesn't like drink. Like I feel like he would just like want her to make him a cup of tea.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that.
She would say, can you bring, he would say, what can I bring? And she would say, can you bring some drinks? And then he would show up and say, can you just make some tea?
Yeah, I feel like he may even like bring a tea. Like I feel like he would find some like crunchy tea shop in San Francisco and like bring some fancy tea bags that he wants to try out.
I like this. Okay.
Yeah.
So he would bring his own sourced tea. Would he bring his own teapot? Is he a tea drinker or is he just doing this for the party?
No, I think he's a tea drinker. I could see him being particular and like making his own and bringing it and being like in his own teapot because he lives next door.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is good also. And then because Lana's underage, she can't really drink alcohol. So that's good. And it goes with the dumplings. Now, Lana has to bring dessert. I don't know if this would be before or after she got coned, but I'm thinking that she probably would not bring ice cream. I think that she seems like someone who has done a lot of like school bake sales for like fundraisers.
I feel like she like shows up at them and like runs them, but she's not the one baking. So maybe she just like steals some.
Yeah, I think she gets one of her friends to make her like several box made cupcakes and like cookies, chocolate chip cookies maybe.
Why is Lana at this dinner party? I could see Mr. Robitussin being there by default because she's like, oh, it's a neighbor.
Maybe this happens right after Mia goes to Genovia and she's feeling like missing her daughter, and she mistakenly thinks maybe she doesn't like really understand the nature of their relationship. And
I like to think that Helen is doing an art show. I could see Lana like her mom wanted to go, so she goes to the loft and then she's like, oh, I'm missing Mia, you should come over for dinner, and her mom like makes her go, but she's not going willingly. And Mr. Robitussin is like feeling vulnerable and lonely, so she invites him over for this affair as well.
Yes. Plus he's always mining for a story.
Yeah.
I think I really needed assistance with that one, so thank you. Plus your expertise in just coming back from Japan.
There you go.
I am going to give you Doc from the car shop,
Him.
who we love.
Love.
I will also give you Sandra Oh's character, the vice principal, and I'll give you Joe. Let's just make this like a really, really great group of people.
Oh, this is a great dinner party. I want to be there. I don't know why, but I'm thinking it's at the school. The school's really beautiful. We didn't really talk about it, but I could see them doing some type of like outdoor like soiree. I want to believe that like there's some, maybe it's like the end of summer event and like friends and family are invited. So Michael brings Doc as like a thank you for letting him use the garage. Mia, like Joe, is always around, like dropping her off at school. And Sandra Oh's character is kind of the one hosting it because it's like her high school. I feel like none of them are really big drinkers, but I could almost see them all like, Joe's like, I'm off the clock. I could go for like a wine cooler right now. And Doc's like, I've had a long day. So maybe he's not going for a wine cooler. I can see him being more of like a PBR guy. And I could see Sandra Oh, like she's just had a long day. So I could almost see her being like, I'm not going to drink, but she's like putting liquor in whatever she's drinking. Like she would be the one to spike the punch because she's had enough of the shenanigans at Grove High. I think just because it's summer, I know we've done like so many like summer barbecues, but I could see this being more of like they have corn dogs, they have hot dogs, definitely some like mac salad situation. And I could see Joseph being like, they would never serve this in Genovia. This is some bullshit American food that I don't want right now. And I can see Doc and Sandro being like, well, this is what we eat here. So deal with it. I do just keep thinking about those like those fruit bowls that they serve at the Baker Beach party, which is like a pineapple, but like with fruit in it, which is like kind of fun, but also really corny. And I could see them having like a full table of those. And I could see Joseph being like, this is super lame. Like I'm not eating, like I only eat pears. Keeping the theme of like bake sales going, but like more of an elevated one because it's like a summer soiree. Like they're trying to impress the parents to potentially get some like donors, like a fancy bakery section from like the bakers in San Francisco. So maybe they have some like strawberry, like rhubarb tarts and maybe some like homemade vanilla ice cream or like an almond ice cream situation. So it's kind of like your mix of classic, what you would get at like a summer kickoff barbecue, but with some elevation since this is, you know, a private school in San Francisco and they are trying to like support small businesses, but also get people to open up their wallets. I could see Joseph like the theme, everyone's like, all right, wear your like Hawaiian shirts or like wear like your summer best, and Joe like still shows up in his leather jacket. He's like, just because I'm off the clock, this is my uniform, I wear this. Sounds great.
Yeah, I think Doc is going to be like, I think you guys should have a maybe I'm just thinking this, I've never heard of this happening in a real high school, but they do in Greece, a shop class that he could teach.
Yes. Oh, I love Doc. He was also like such a good wingman for Michael.
He was. Have you seen Princess Diaries 2?
I have many times. It's a great movie.
So no spoilers. I think I might just like watch it tomorrow.
Please.
Because I want to know.
Okay. Time for this or that segment. All right, Michelle, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Keyboard M&Ms or pizza M&Ms?
Would I have to eat the pizza with the M&Ms?
Mm-hmm. But the keyboard and M&Ms are like after Michael has been working on the baby all day. Because Doc does not have, I know that he like doesn't have a sink in there.
My crown just fell off for those listening on audio.
Amazing.
I'm going to go with the pizza M&Ms.
Okay. Wow.
I'll eat it with the pizza.
Yeah, I feel like chocolate on pizza probably isn't as bad as we're thinking. Joe's limo service or Mia's scooter?
Definitely Joe's limo.
Give a speech during debate class or participate in gym softball?
I would rather give a speech.
Would you rather rip a blackhead strip off your nose in front of your crush or get brain freeze at a consulate dinner?
I think get brain freeze at a consulate dinner.
Okay. Would you rather be stuck on a sailboat with Josh for a minimum of 30 minutes or be one of Lana's backup dancers?
Be one of Lana's backup dancers.
Wow, you hate dancing though. So
I also don't do well on boats.
Fair.
And Josh is miserable, so
Yeah, he's the
it would be
worst.
awful.
Would you rather have tea in the garden or a corn dog on the ferry?
Tea in the garden. Would you rather go to the dinner party at the Genovian consulate or some kind of meal at the Baker Beach party?
Baker Beach party. More my scene.
Fun. Would you rather have the Genovian diary, since we know you're a big writer, or the Genovian tiara?
Definitely the diary. I'm not a big crown person, and I feel like it would give me a headache. Like these headphones already give me headaches.
All right, and last one. Would you rather be coned or throw up near a tuba?
I'd rather get coned. It's not that bad. Like, she's so dramatic. That's a normal day for me. I always joke, like, if I had one of those things that they put on you when you get your hair cut that wraps around your whole body and I was eating something, there would still get food on me. So I'm no stranger to getting food on my clothing, even in a dramatic state. I'm so excited for next week. We kind of hinted at this, but we do another, I would say, play on like older, younger, iconic duo actresses. We're moving a little further along in our 2000s journey, and we are also joined by our sister Lisa next week to cover Freaky Friday. So make sure you listen in.
Thanks for joining us at the table. We can't wait to hear your thoughts about this episode. Text us or leave us a voicemail at 904-513-1383. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review or hit that button to give us 5 stars. If you've been enjoying watching on YouTube, click the link below to subscribe to our channel and give one of our past episodes a thumbs up. And lastly, tell a friend by sharing your favorite episode with them. Thanks so much for supporting us.